When barrier repair comes up, one ingredient dominates the conversation: ceramides. And yes, ceramides are essential, but ceramides don't work alone. Today we are going to talk about the most overlooked lipid in skin barrier: cholesterol. Cholesterol is a word with negative associations in nutrition, but in skin physiology, cholesterol is absolutely non-negotiable, and if you're only focusing on ceramides, you're missing a critical piece of the barrier equation. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what cholesterol does in the skin, why it is essential for barrier integrity, and how to think more critically about formulations that claim to support barrier repair. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Renee Sorbonne, and I teach advanced skin science through a corneotherapy lens. Because lasting results don't come from trends and quick fixes, they come from understanding how skin science actually functions. This channel is about barrier biology, formulation literacy, and clinical decision-making rooted in physiology, not in marketing hype. Now, let's ground ourselves in how the lipid barrier is actually built. The intracellular lipid matrix, or the mortar between the corneocytes, is primarily composed of three classes of lipids: ceramides, cholesterol, and free fatty acids. When we look at the total lipid content by weight, ceramides make up roughly 50%, cholesterol around 3/4 or 25%, and free fatty acids approximately 10 to 20%, with smaller amounts of other lipids present. But this is where confusion often creeps in. Those numbers describe what the barrier contains, not how it's rebuilt. Think of it like constructing a wall. Ceramides are the bricks. They provide bulk and structure. Fatty acids act like a flexible sealant, allowing adaptability. But cholesterol is the scaffolding. It organizes the structure and keeps it stable. Without cholesterol, the lipid matrix becomes disorganized and overly fluid, and yet the market is saturated with ceramide-only products. That's like building bricks without structural support, and it may look initially fine and even good, but that strength will not hold. So what exactly does cholesterol do? Cholesterol molecules have a rigid planar structure. They insert themselves between the more flexible ceramide and fatty acid chain, and this has two major effects. First, it creates order and density. Cholesterol helps to organize lipids into tightly packed multilamellar structures, and this is what reduces transepidermal water loss and strengthens the skin's waterproof seal. And second, cholesterol regulates fluidity. In warm conditions, it prevents the barrier from becoming too loose, and in cold conditions, it prevents lipids from becoming brittle and rigid. So cholesterol is a master regulator, allowing the barrier to remain stable across environmental stressors. A barrier deficient in cholesterol is structurally unstable. It leaks water, it overreacts to stimuli, and becomes more prone to irritation and inflammation. So where does the skin get the cholesterol? Most of the cholesterol in the stratum corneum is produced by the keratinocytes themselves during differentiation. This is not the same cholesterol circulating in the bloodstream, but cholesterol synthesis declines with age, and UV exposure further disrupts and depletes barrier lipids. This is one of the reasons mature skin becomes drier, slower to recover, and more barrier impaired over time. And this is where topical cholesterol becomes clinically relevant. Research shows that when cholesterol is applied together with ceramides and fatty acids, barrier recovery is faster and more complete, especially on compromised skin. In good sustainable formulations, cholesterol's role is often represented by biomimetic lipids, such as squalene, phosphatidylcholine, and phytosterols, which support barrier organization and fluidity in a cholesterol-compatible way. Not alone, not as a hero ingredient, but as part of a physiological complete system. Now, let's talk about formulation, because this is where corneotherapy brings clarity. In corneotherapy, you'll often hear us reference to a 1-to-1 ratio of ceramides, cholesterol, and fatty acids. This does not mean that the skin naturally contains these lipids in equal weights. It means that when we're providing these three lipid classes in a balanced molecular relationship, best supports the formation of proper multilamellar bilayers, the very structure responsible for barrier function. So mass percentages describes composition, and this 1-to-1-to-1 ratio describes functional reconstruction. A well-designed barrier formulation may not disclose exact ratios, but it will always include all three of the lipid classes. So be cautious of products that only highlight ceramides. They may help, but they will never fully support barrier function on its own. Here's the takeaway for today. Cholesterol is not the villain. In skin, it's the organizer, the stabilizer, and the regulator of the lipid barrier. Ceramides, cholesterol, and fatty acids function as a triad. Addressing only one is an incomplete strategy. True barrier repair requires understanding how ingredients work together, not just which ones are trending. If this way of thinking resonates with you and you want to deepen your understanding of barrier science, formulation logic, and client skin assessment, this is exactly the work that we do inside the Professional Skin Assessment Mastery. There is no pressure and no hard sell, but if you're curious, the details are linked below in the description. And you're always welcome to reach out with questions. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends, and I will see you next week.